here on the program. AFR.net is the URL. AFR.net, you can get the live program and you can get the podcast at AFR.net and on the American Family Radio app. Brand new edition of the program, and we've got a lot to get to this day and this week here on AFR. You're listening to At the Core, turning to the last chapter of Proverbs, chapter 31. After this week, we'll probably move on to John, the book of John. But last chapter of Proverbs 31, verses 10 and 11, an excellent wife who can find? For her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. That's Proverbs 31, verses 10 and 11, talking about the value of having an excellent wife. Proverbs 31, verse 10 and 11. Well, Operation Christmas Child is announcing their National Collection Week, which we want to mention here on the program, and we'll mention this over the next 3 to 4 weeks. But National Collection Week this year is November 17th through 24th. November 17th through the 24th of this year is National Collection Week. There's over 5,000 drop-off locations for the shoeboxes in all 50 states, including the territory of Puerto Rico. And I was going to say the state, but the Democrats wish Puerto Rico was a state, but it's not. It's a territory. So drop-off locations in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, and over 5,000 locations around the country to learn how to pack a shoebox, view the suggestions on the type of gifts that should go in the shoebox, and to find a drop-off location near you. You can simply go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, or just go to SamaritansPurse.org. Right there on the homepage, you'll see the Operation Christmas Child banner. So check that out. You can either donate to have Operation Christmas Child pack and send the shoebox for you, or you can pack your own shoebox and drop it off at one of their locations. So we participate and partner with Samaritan's Purse every year, and so we'll be mentioning that over the next few weeks. But National Collection Week is the week of November 17th through the 24th here in about 3 weeks. So continue tracking that. All right, let's turn our attention to the news. We've got a very big announcement today. Came out this morning around 6 a.m. is when the op-ed was published that I wrote over at afn.net. But those of you who listen to the program rather frequently have heard me talk about our efforts on corporate engagement. Maybe you've heard it on this program. I'm also a weekly guest on Rob West's program on Faith Fi. Every Friday, where Jerry Boyer and I of Boyer Research, we talk about corporate engagement. But American Family Association has been using our investments to engage America's largest corporations for the purpose of advancing pro-family values. And so, with that being said, we've spoken at shareholder meetings with John Deere, Apple, Verizon, Bank of America, just to name a few, Schwab, the financial firm, Schwab, and there's many others. We've got some coming up in early 2026, but we've been presenting these shareholder proposals that are aimed at advancing pro-family values in America's largest corporations. One of those proposals took place earlier this year, and it had to do with the Apple Corporation, which, if you haven't heard of Apple, I don't know where you've been, but the manufacturer of the iPhone, the Apple computer, formerly known as the Mac computer, and they've got a whole line of technological products now. One of the largest, not the largest, but as of 2 years ago, they were the largest tech company in the world, and then some of these chip makers like NVIDIA took their place on the S&P. But we've been engaging with these companies through the shareholder proposal process with the goal of advancing pro-family values in America's corporate boardrooms. So one of the proposals that we put forth was regarding child sexual abuse material, otherwise known as CSAM. And Apple, early in 2020, 2021, Apple was planning on, or at least in discussions, to deploy CSAM, child sexual abuse material, scanning software in their cloud environment. So if you have an iCloud account, they were going to scan photos to ensure that child sexual abuse material wasn't being stored in the iCloud environment. Well, they ended up ditching the project, ditching the efforts, didn't deploy it. And there were some possibly legitimate privacy concerns around deploying CSAM scanning software in the iCloud environment. Apple said it could be used to scan for other legal content and could have some free speech and privacy concerns. Whether or not that's true or not, we can debate that. That's a subject for another day. But we wanted Apple to look into the legal and financial risk associated with not deploying the scanning software, because anybody who's in the space and studies and works on the subject of protecting children and specifically preventing the distribution of child sexual abuse material, which is a very serious crime, we wanted to know, why wasn't Apple doing more on this front? And so we put forth a proposal. We got about almost 7% of the shareholders to vote in favor of our proposal, which I understand that doesn't sound like a lot, and it's far from even 50%. But in the shareholder engagement world, that was a pretty big deal to get 7% of shareholders on board with our proposal. And so we had multiple meetings with Apple leading up to it. They wanted us to pull the proposal. And we had multiple meetings with them, and we were basically trying to get them to do more to protect minors on their devices. One of the things that came up as we were doing our research into Apple and how their accounts are set up on the iPhones and the iPads and the computers is there's parental controls that parents can put into place for all minors under their account. All the children on your Apple account, you can put in different parental controls. Well, one of the parental controls is called communication safety. And with communication safety, we realize that children age, let's say 1 to 13, they would have the most rigorous standards and the most rigorous safety protocol in place on their account. And children couldn't even view what the device detects as pornographic imagery using the Messages app. Those images were blocked, and there was no way for the child to view them. So the children are basically, if you're age 1 to 13, protected from viewing harmful pornographic material through the Messages app, all right? The vulnerability we uncovered as part of these discussions with Apple about how they can do more to protect children, what we uncovered is that children age 14 to 17, they could actually view and distribute pornographic material, pornographic images and videos, using the Messages app on the iPhone or on the Apple device without parental knowledge or without parental consent. So no passcode needed, etc. You just simply bypass the disclaimer, and then boom, before you know it, your 14-year-old, your 16-year-old is viewing explicit pornographic images and videos on their iPhone without your consent, even though they're a minor. This is even though they're a minor. They're under the age of 18. So we view that as like a complete no-brainer that Apple should be able to fix this. There is no reason, and I told Apple executives this. I said there is zero, and I did all caps in my email to Apple. I said there is zero reason for you to have this double standard for those 13 and under and those 14 to 17. There is no legal or moral reason for you to treat those two minor groups differently. And so I guess my email resonated. And I told him, I said, if there's a reason that you think a 14-year-old should be viewing pornography without their parents' consent, without their parents' knowledge on the Apple device, please make the case. Let's hear the case. I would be interested to hear the case. Of course, crickets. But we're pleased to announce that not even a year after those engagements, And after putting forth another proposal this upcoming year, which Apple once again wanted us to rescind, Apple has made changes on their devices to where all minors 17 and under have the same communication standards and the communication safety standards on by default to where they are protected from harmful content. And their parents, amen, and their parents will have to, will be notified if they choose to try to bypass those safety standards. And so this is a very big deal, a very big victory. I wrote an op-ed over at afn.net where you can read more about kind of the inside baseball on this announcement. But this is just one of many examples where showing up is half the battle. I mean, showing up is half the battle, and this is why, folks, disengagement is not an option. You know, there's a time and a place for a boycott. Trust me, we know it. Target, right? Look at that. And that ended up bearing fruit in the long haul about 9 years later. There's a time and a place for boycotts. There's a time and a place for, to be removed from a situation that's wholly unbeneficial. But here in this instance, we needed to show up. And so American Family Association, we looked at our investments. We said, hey, we own shares in these companies, and some of these companies are doing bad things, and we think we can fix it. We think we can show up at the shareholder meetings, and we think we can fix this and apply pressure. And that's what we did. And we were going after the CSAM material, which is the worst of the worst, and we're still going to be focused on that. But in the midst of going after that, we realized that even the most rudimentary of safety standards are not in place on these Apple devices, and this is just patently absurd. Nobody can justify it, having these loopholes, these vulnerabilities on the Apple devices, and parents ought to have the full control to protect their children on these devices. And so we're happy to announce that today, that our efforts paid off, our efforts worked, and part of the battle was just showing up. And so we showed up, and Apple ended up taking our recommendations to beef up their communication safety standards. And honestly, it was an act of good faith on their part to heed our advice. They're a multi-$100 billion company. They didn't have to listen to us, but they did. They did, because what we were saying made sense. What they were doing was indefensible. And there's a lot of risk associated as a company, as a publicly traded company. There's a lot of risk associated with failing to do everything that you can to protect the hearts and the minds of our young people. And so Apple agreed, and they made the necessary changes. There was also another victory, another change that Apple made on the App Store. So previously, there was a loophole, if you will. I call it a loophole, but it was intentionally designed this way. But there was a loophole in the App Store where children could see adult-rated apps. Now, they couldn't download them, but they could still view them. And so one of the things we brought up with Apple is, if the children can't download the app, why would you even show it to them in the featured sections on the App Store? And of course, there wasn't much of a good reason there. And so we said, look, guys, there's no reason. Do not let the kids see adult-rated apps. If they can't download them, they don't have access to them, they shouldn't even be able to view the app in the App Store. And so Apple made that change as well. Now children can only see age-appropriate apps in the App Store when they're searching for apps and on the featured sections there on the homepage of the App Store. And so those are two big victories with Apple. Happy to announce. Go over to afn.net. You can see our latest op-ed there. We'll be back in a few.
Moreover, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. But I will instruct you in the good and right way. My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. When the Israelites finally grasped the gravity of what they'd done in demanding a king to judge us like all the nations, they asked Samuel to pray for them that they may not die. Samuel agreed to both pray and instruct them in righteousness. Christ followers shouldn't allow people to manipulate us into co-signing wickedness when they say, well, just pray for me then. we will certainly pray and speak the truth in love.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner with Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
Hey, my name is Wesley Wildmon.
And I'm Walker Wildmon.
And we're brothers, and our family have been leading tours to the land of the Bible for more than 30 years.
Coming up in March of 2026, we would love for you to join us for something very special, a Footsteps of Paul tour, a journey through Greece.
We'll walk exactly where the Apostle Paul walked, through Athens, ancient Corinth, Philippi, and Thessalonica.
You'll enjoy unforgettable experiences and meaningful fellowship with believers and with Wesley and Walker.
And we'll eat well, laugh a lot, and yes, eat well again. And most importantly, we will grow in our faith as the Bible comes alive before your eyes. You'll get to see the very things that we read about or that your pastor talks about in church.
The Footsteps of Paul tour is March 17th through the 24th, 2026.
Register today at wildmangroup.com.
That's wildmangroup.com. We can't wait to see you there.
At the Core podcasts are available at afr.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the program. Second segment underway. If you missed part of the last segment, we talked about a major victory with Apple Corporation that the American Family Association secured in recent months. Just announced this morning. So you can go over to afn.net to check out that op-ed that I wrote that came out first thing this morning. You can read all of the information on the Apple development, and we've got an email going out to our audience here in just a little while to announce that, and also provide helpful tips on how parents can enable these safety standards, these safety features on their Apple devices. And so go to afn.net. You can view the opinion piece that I wrote there this morning. The headline, the title is Major Development in Apple Communication Safety for Children. You can also go to afr.net and catch this podcast, this show, in its entirety this afternoon and go back and listen to that segment. Well, I want to cover a couple stories before hopefully we jump to our guest here in a little bit. But this government shutdown is entering week 3, going past week 3 actually, of the government shutdown. Democrats, I mean, they're not even at the table. They're not even present. They're not even trying to reopen this government. And when we went into the government shutdown, I thought to myself, I've seen this before. I thought this will last about a week or two maybe, and Democrats will come around and they'll give in and fund the government. But part of me is wondering if something a little more sinister is at play here and not business as usual for the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats are behaving as if the government shutdown is good. It's good for them. It's good for the country. They're sticking to it. They're not giving in. And there's no downside for them. That's the way they're acting. They're acting as if there's no downside for them on this entire government shutdown saga. And to be honest, there's no sign of it ending. There's no sign of them coming to the table and funding the government. Well, to date, the ramifications of the government shutdown haven't been apocalyptic, if you will. People have been affected, don't get me wrong. People have missed paychecks that work for the government. But I think we're about to start entering a new phase of the government shutdown where it's about to be more widespread as far as the effects. And I've got a couple clips here to back this up. Let's listen to clip 2. This is going to be a local news story about how the food assistance programs, such as SNAP, those funds are going to dry up within the next week or so. Clip 2.
This morning, more than 40 million people, that's roughly 1 in every 8 Americans, are bracing to see their food assistance run out later this week, creating a food crisis some experts say could be the worst since the Great Depression, all because of the government shutdown. The U.S. Agriculture Department, which administers the SNAP or Food Snap program, announcing, quote, the well has run dry.
Everyone's worried that, they're not going to be able to feed their families.
There you have it. This the food programs, which I did not realize how many people this serviced. This is massive, and it's really a problem. I'm glad this is coming to light. 40 million people. I mean, if you would have asked me how many people are on food assistance, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million, 40 million people are on a food assistance. I think the stat was about an eighth of the country is on food assistance. So, and typically, the number of people receiving it is less than the number of people benefiting from it, if you understand what I'm saying. So, like, you have one parent on the food assistance program, and they're helping to feed multiple children, and so that didn't even factor that in. These are just people that are signed up for it, and but those funds are about to dry up. And so, and you've already got some federal employees that aren't able to pay their mortgage. They're not able to pay their car note. So this is terrible. This is terrible on behalf of the Democrats. And it's terrible because of how we got here and what they're trying to do here with the government shutdown, which they're trying to extract some major left-wing policy and spending priorities by shutting the government down. And Democrats have even said, look, we don't really care about the effects of the government shutdown. This is all about leverage. That's a quote from them. This is, quote, all about leverage and all about getting what we want out of this situation. And let me play one more clip, and then we'll jump to our next guest. This is Democrat Congressman on a CNBC. This is Congressman Ruben Gallego from Arizona. Actually, U.S. Senator, my bad, from Arizona, to CNBC saying, Democrats have spoken out against government shutdowns in the past, but, this is different, right? This is different. Clip 1.
If Republicans shut down the government next time Democrats are in charge to extract whatever it is that they happen to want, are you saying that's okay? Are you saying that's okay if they do that?
The Republicans have done this quite a while, yes. Yeah,
what did you say about it? What did you say about it when they did it?
I don't know, and I don't.
Quote, I don't know, and I don't care. All right, if you want to know, which just shows how underrated these Democrats are, by the way, the fact that I don't even know this U.S. Senator from Arizona, this just shows how unpopular our Congress is. Ruben Gallego, that's who you just heard there. That's the U.S. Senator from Arizona. He just said he was being called out by CNBC about previous standards that Democrats have set regarding government shutdowns. They've said multiple times, we've played the clips, we can't have a shutdown. Shutdowns are bad. Everything you could say negative about government shutdowns, Democrats have done it. They've been the chief proponent, right, of keeping the government open. Well, this U.S. Senator is being questioned about, hey, in the past, you've said multiple times, and he doesn't have an answer. He doesn't have an answer. And let's quote him on at least 3 occasions. In 2013, this Democrat said, quote, you can't shut down the government and still claim to be a patriot. That was in 2013. What a statement. What a statement. You talk about treating things as black and white. You can't shut down the government and still claim to be a patriot. All right, that was 2013. In 2019, regarding a government shutdown, this Democrat said that that shutting the government down is, quote, putting the country in danger, end quote. And then in 2023, this same Democrat said that in order to, that keeping the government open was, quote, putting country before party, end quote. And Chuck Schumer has multiple times, talked about how the right thing to do is to keep the government open. And this continuing resolution, mind you, this continuing resolution is something the Democrats have voted for over a dozen times. So this is not like a Republican wish list bill. This is not a Republican spending priority. This is just a bill that the Democrats have supported over a dozen, I think 13 times in the last 24 months. The Democrats have supported this type of legislation. And all of a sudden they want to play politics with the government spending. So back to my point about what the motives and the intent here are. This is looking a lot more sinister than I thought. This is looking like a lot more than government, political pandering than I went into this thinking it was going to be. I thought this is going to be a couple weeks. Democrats are going to, prove their point or whatever, try to make their point, raise some, attention, and then, they'll come to the table and fund the government. But that's not the case. That's not what's happening here. Another option that I think the Democrats could be driving at here is to try to force the Republicans to get rid of the filibuster, or the fake filibuster is how I described it last week. But it's this rule where you need 60 votes to pass a bill in the U.S. Senate. And they call it a filibuster. It's really a fake filibuster because a true filibuster, you have to talk the entire time. This one's a fake filibuster. You basically just have to raise your hand and you can stall the piece of legislation and require 60 votes to get the legislation to continue moving through the U.S. Senate. That's why I call it a fake filibuster. But right now, that's the holdup. All right, that's the holdup. You got this 60-vote rule. You've heard about it probably 100 times. You got the 60-vote rule. There's only 53 Republican senators. And so you got to have 7 Democrats come over to the Republican side to pass this government spending bill. And there's been a couple of Democrats vote for the continuing resolution, but not 60, obviously. Not enough to get the bill over the finish line. I'm wondering if the Democrats are trying to force the Republicans to get rid of the filibuster, the legislative filibuster, so that when they get in charge, it's that procedural move is already out of the way. Democrats can then ram through whatever radical legislation they want to with a simple majority. That's what I'm wondering if that's at play here. Either that, this could be a multi-pronged approach, but Democrats, I don't want to give them too much credit, but I would bet they've probably thought through this. They know what they're willing to give up, how far they're willing to take this before somebody blinks. And you've got the possibility that Democrats want to get the Republicans to get rid of the filibuster, go ahead and pass the spending bill in the name of keeping the government open. And then when Democrats get in control with a Democrat president, then they'll ram through whatever radical Green New Deal they want to ram through. Universal basic income, the most radical of radical legislation, they'll ram through with a simple majority. Another possibility here, and a lot of this is speculation. We'll see. We'll see what the history books write. Another option is that the Democrats are wanting to exert pain on the American people and say, look, see, I told you so. Voting for this big bad Trump, it was a bad decision. Almost treating the American people as kids, right? Let's give them their punishment. Let's give them what they deserve for electing the mean Donald Trump into the White House. That could be what's going on here. And so the pain being, you've got millions of federal employees not getting paid. You've got air traffic delays at the airports. You're about to have food assistance programs. Their money's going to run dry. People aren't going to have money to go to the grocery store. This could really get pretty ugly. And Democrats are totally held hostage by the radical Marxist element of their party. And that's a fact. I mean, the rumors are that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, our squad member, AOC, is pretty much running these negotiations. That's what the word is. And when Nancy Pelosi was questioned on it, she got very defensive. Very defensive. And Chuck Schumer, he didn't want to talk about it. And Chuck Schumer, by the way, Chuck Schumer and AOC, they're both from New York. So maybe Chuck Schumer doesn't want to get primaried by AOC. And so he's doing whatever AOC says, maybe. But that's the word on the street from pretty credible sources that the squad is running the negotiations. And that's why we don't have the government open, is because AOC is in charge of the negotiations. And this is, if you don't think the Democrats have the capacity to do very evil things, boy, where have you been? Where have you been? I mean, this is the same party that during COVID, they were telling you and me that we should lose our job for not taking the poison jab. I mean, that's what they were telling us. They were saying, you know, you don't care about people, you don't love people unless you take the shot. This is the same party that was telling us, and the Democrats, and there were some Republicans that were complicit in this too, so let's not forget that. And the Faucis of the world, these bureaucrats with no heart. You know, they were telling us that we can't see our grandparents that are on their deathbed because of COVID, right? All the nursing home, all the nurses and staff can see our grandparents, but we can't, right? Because we're sick, or we might be sick. And so they should just die alone. That's what we were told. We can't go in there. You can look at them through the window, right? That's what we were told. And you look back on how COVID was handled. Once again, a lot of this was pushed by the Democrats. You look how it was handled. I mean, it's so wicked. It was so inhumane. It was so wicked. I can't believe our country even went through that. And there's really been no justice. There's really been no remedy to the wrongs that were committed during the COVID era. And much of that, not all, but much of it, much of the insanity and the heartlessness and the dumb policies and the demonization of anybody who dared to dissent. Remember, all of this was pushed by the Democrats and the bureaucrats. And this is the same party that's okay with killing babies in the womb. Perfectly healthy, beautiful babies created in the image of God are being taken from their mother, being taken from their family, being taken from the world every day because the Democrats worship at the altar of abortion. And this is the same Democrat Party that has been promoting child sex change procedures for years. They've been pushing this nonsense. And you and I know you can't change your sex. You can mutilate your body. That doesn't make you male or female. They've been pushing this on young people. Transgenderism, homosexuality, for years, creating victim after victim after victim. So my point in all of this and kind of this receipt showing session I just went through is to help you understand, folks, that Democrats can do some serious bad things. And to think they won't shut down the government to inflict pain on the American people is to be completely naive to the radical nature of the party. We'll be back in a few.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
What if healthcare could be more than bills and bureaucracy? What if it could reflect faith, foster community, and offer spiritual support? At Redeem HealthShare Ministry, the mission goes beyond medical bills. It's about honoring Christ and embracing healthcare that aligns with Christian values. Redeem members share medical expenses through monthly contributions, supporting one another in a Christ-centered community. It's not insurance, it's believers helping believers through financial support and prayer. And Redeem HealthShare provides freedom for members to select the doctors, hospitals, and treatments that are right for them. No networks, no restrictions, just faith-driven care. From everyday checkups to unexpected medical emergencies, Redeem offers flexible programs and encouragement rooted in Scripture. Because your healthcare should reflect your faith, not compromise it. More at redeemhealthshare.org.
In 1990, there were only 8,000 self-identifying Wiccans in the United States, people who celebrate the occult and worship ancient pagan deities. But as of 2025, there were more than 800,000, a staggering 10,000% increase. Meanwhile, the number of Americans identifying as Christians has actually declined. We're not saying this to alarm you, but to warn you about what the Bible says concerning the deception that will rise in the last days. Jesus himself warned false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Satan's nefarious activities are not relegated to the days of idol worship. He has cleverly adapted his tactics to attack this generation, and Christians need to be alerted to the ancient demonic beings in our midst. This is Tim Moore wishing you Godspeed.
We're dedicated to proclaiming to as many people as possible that Jesus is returning soon. Find out more at christinprophecy.org.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Walker Wildmon.
Welcome back to the program here on American Family Radio. As a reminder, we've got the video up on Facebook and X. Just go to At the Core on Facebook, and on X you can go to the American Family Radio handle, watch the video live. Also stream.afa.net. All of our video content there is available there at stream.afa.net. All right, I want to jump to our guest for this segment, friend of the ministry and a fighter for freedom and for sanity in education, Ryan Walters, former superintendent of education in the state of Oklahoma, now CEO of brand new organization, Teacher Freedom Alliance. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me on, Walker. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and thank you for having me back.
Yeah, you and I and a couple others put together a video on education in America, the future of education in America. And so you've been working with us on this topic for some time now. But Ryan, tell us, before we jump into some of these topics of teacher unions, et cetera, tell us about your organization you just started.
Well, Walker, as you know, as you've run into, and as I was running into, fighting for education reform in Oklahoma, fighting for getting the Bible back in the classroom, fighting for getting prayer back in the classroom. The number one adversary that I had every step of the way was the teachers' unions. They would spend millions of dollars from around the country to come in and fight us, launch all kind of ads against us, frankly, even pay off Republicans to come in and support their left-wing agenda. And as we were able to be successful in Oklahoma, we're the first state to put the Bible back in the classroom. We brought prayer back to the classroom, into DEI, full school choice for homeschooling, all Christian options available. Put Jesus and the Bible back in our standards. You're required to teach that. Now when you teach history in Oklahoma, which again, I don't know how you could teach world history or U.S. history without the Bible and Christianity. That's a whole other topic there. But we got to take the fight nationally to these teachers' unions. I mean, the disgusting garbage we're seeing in our schools, the left-wing woke indoctrination we're seeing, the transgenderism, which is, Walker, literally killing our kids. We've got kids committing suicide because they're being told that they're boys, now they're girls, now they're something else, giving them all kind of gender mutilization drugs and therapies and all this nonsense. So, I joined up in this effort to defeat the teachers' unions, take them head on, play offense, not just, sitting back and when they do something crazy, respond to it. No, we're going to go out. We're going to defeat them. We're going to get people to leave the unions. We're going to get states to ban the unions. And we're going to put our schools back where they should be, in the hands of parents and families, not a bunch of left-wing bureaucrat teachers union activists.
Ryan, I knew the teachers unions were a problem, but I didn't fully grasp until recent years the broad nature of the problem with the teachers unions, and how a lot of these dues in some states are mandatory. In Mississippi, they're not mandatory, but they're almost presented as mandatory upon enrollment as a teacher. You don't really know you can opt out unless you ask. But talk about that, about how these teachers unions are funded and how they really don't do anything to help the classroom or the actual teachers.
Walker, thank you you explained that very well. One of the things they do, even in red states, we dealt with it here in Oklahoma. I was able to decrease union membership by over 80%. We ran them out of our schools here in Oklahoma because so much of what they do, even in right-to-work states, what they do is they present, ask a new teacher friend, ask any teacher friends of yours, when they come on board, they're 22, 23, they get all this paperwork. Sign up for this, sign up for that, here's your health insurance. And teachers unions have fought to be just like their health insurance, just like their any kind of insurance. We're right there. We are presenting the paperwork right there at the same time. A lot of teachers sign into it, don't even know that's what it is. They don't call themselves a teachers union. They usually have a cute name like an association or something. They don't explain that the majority of their dues go up to the NEA, which is, guys, if you don't know what the NEA is about, go look at some of the videos online. Follow us on Twitter. We've got a very active account where we post a lot of these things so you can see, they have been pushing transgenderism. They've been pushing CRT, DEI. They are very clear. Over 94% of their contributions go to Democrat candidates. So they really are a money laundering a scheme for the Democrat Party is what they are. But it's kind of like the Hotel California, if you remember that song there. I mean, you can check out, but you can't ever leave, right? So what happens is once you sign up, it is this incredibly bureaucratic process to leave. And we have got teachers all over the country that go, I can't get out. I've written them letters. I've done all their steps. They don't let me out. I'm automatically enrolled every single year, and I didn't know I was in it. And so that's part of our fight is, first of all, let teachers know what the teachers union's about, because here's the reality. The majority of teachers in the teachers union don't even know what they're doing because they lie to their members. They go, we're just here to give you professional development trainings. We support you with some liability insurance. My group, hey, we provide liability insurance for free. Any teacher that wants to join, hey, we'll get your back. Well, we're not going to let some left wing administrator sue you or anything like that. But what they are doing is taking your money and actively funding Democrat causes. And so we're getting all these conservative teachers going, guys, get out. And when you get out, come join the Teacher Freedom Alliance. And what we do is, hey, we give you the best professional development in the country. There's no CRT, no DEI. If you're a math teacher, we'll train you in math. If you're a history teacher, we're going to train you in history. None of that garbage is going to be there. And also, we're going to protect you legally. So if they come after you like the unions do, they are so nasty. They've threatened teachers. They dox the teachers, bully the teachers. No, we're going to have your back legally. And lastly, we're going to teach you how to fight back against these tactics that can be so detrimental to good teachers. And again, when you talk to parents, what do they want? They want a good teacher for their kids. We want to protect those good teachers and make sure that our classrooms aren't being run by social justice warriors from the teachers unions.
Yeah, this is excellent. I love the idea, Ryan, of just shutting the teachers unions down because it's one thing to counter them, which you've been doing for many years, but to actually shut them down really is the ultimate victory here as far as stopping their toxic influence in our classrooms. And this is where I hope we do have a lot of listeners who are teachers and educators. Half my family's got a background in education. A lot of the my grandparents and my wife even has an education degree. But the what I wanted to have you address was the fact that very little money is actually not just teachers' union dues, but none of that's making it back to the classroom. But even our tax dollars, the administrative state within the education kind of complex has been growing astronomically, like a straight line up on a chart, on a graph. But the number of teachers isn't hardly growing at all. It's stagnated. And so my point is there's so much money being poured into the administration and to central office and to the districts, but very little is making it to the classroom. That's a major problem as well. And the teachers unions have done nothing to fix that.
Yeah, let me drop a few numbers out there to help illustrate this. You're spot on. Over 60% of funds spent in education goes to administrative costs nationally. Over 60%. That means bureaucracy in the country. We pay for more non-teachers in our schools than teachers. I want to repeat that. We pay for more personnel that are non-teachers than teachers in our schools across the nation. Now, most people, when they hear that, are going, well, what are we paying for? Well, here's what you're paying for. You're paying for, and just think about every school system you know. You've got a superintendent. You've got an assistant to the superintendent. You've got a deputy to that superintendent. You've got a building administrator. You've got 5. Look at this exorbitant bureaucratic bloat that continues to grow. And by the way, just to give your listeners another kind of context for this, President Trump is cutting the Federal Department of Education. You have less strings now from the federal government than in over 30 years in education. In red states, like we slash bureaucracy here in Oklahoma. You have less requirements that you have to turn in. So why are we hiring more bureaucrats when you have less that you have to do bureaucratically through our schools than ever before? That is because they are building and growing government. They are not looking out for good teachers. They are not looking out for your kids. They are doing what government does best, which is grow government. And this is where even in red states, hey, look, in Oklahoma, we increased the education budget. We increased it more than $1 billion a year. And then we went back and had to fight because guess what? We were telling the schools and the taxpayers were saying, hey, we want our teachers to make more money, right? We did merit pay here in Oklahoma. Been wildly successful. We got over 1,000 teachers on track to make 6 figures in Oklahoma for being a top 10% of teacher in the state. Okay, it's great. You do a great job, we'll pay you more. Absolutely. But we had to force the districts to do that because they wanted to turn around and hire administrators. And we said, no. We're not giving you more money to go hire more of your buddies. What we're doing is giving you more money to go in here. And by the way, money is not the problem in education.
Correct.
Okay? There's money going around in education, plenty of money. The problem is how the money is being spent. So you got over 60% of your dollars are being spent on administrative costs, not your classroom teachers, not the supplies for your kids. And number 2, just to show you how bad the teachers unions are in all this, over 60% of union dues are spent on administrative costs and political donations. So the majority of their money, your teachers are going, I'm paying a little bit into this. They're going to provide me professional development, right? Trainings, resources. No, they're not. They are growing their power structure to go in and be an arm of the Democrat Party. They are one of the biggest funders of the Democrat Party in the nation. And so these are very important things that, again, they lie to good teachers. So, again, I'm a teacher. I'm a public school teacher of over 10 years. My family is out of public school teachers. We have, and that's part of why I'm so passionate about this mission. We've got to have good people in our schools. Have to have good teachers in our schools. And the reality is if we don't play offense here, the left has been doing this for 4 decades now. They created the Federal Department of Education under Jimmy Carter. They've been rock and rolling. That was the number 1 ask of the National Teachers Union, create a Federal Department of Education so we can partner up with them and wield power into our schools. And you see what's happened. More bureaucracy, the power structure of the teachers union forcing left-wing indoctrination on our kids and our teachers. And I got one warning here. President Trump is doing an amazing job. I mean, I could not speak more highly of President Trump and his education agenda. But here's my warning. If he does away with the Federal Department of Education in its entirety, which he's going to, it's going to happen. He's doing a great job of doing that. But we don't eliminate the teachers union. They will fill that power vacuum.
Yep.
They will become even more powerful to exert their power onto our schools, onto our state. So it is so important in this agenda when we're wanting to bring education back to families, back to communities, back to faith-centered education. You've got to eliminate the teachers union too, or we've just exchanged one evil operation for another.
That's so good. So true. Ryan, tell our folks more about your website, your URL, where they can check out your organization and read more about your work.
Teacherfreedom.com. Come on. And folks, this is for teachers and non-teachers. We want parents, taxpayers, please sign up. Help us in this initiative. Again, it's free. We want you to sign up, and we're going to continue to support good teachers. We're going to make sure that they know that, hey, optouttoday.com, go on there, opt out of your union. We walk you through how to get out, again, how to deal with that bureaucratic process and get you out. So optouttoday.com. Then go to teacherfreedom.com. Please sign up. If you're a teacher, we're going to put you in this community. We got thousands of members across the country. We're going to hook you up. Hey, if you're a math teacher, we'll connect you with thousands of math teachers just like you. That want to get back to teaching math. You want to see the best professional development in the country. You want to get back to teaching the basics in education. We're going to support you any way we can. And parents, taxpayers, join this fight. We've got to get our schools back. So again, we can't just fight DEI. We can't just fight CRT. We've got to go back to putting faith in our education system. How do kids understand what made America great if they don't understand the role Christianity played in our country's history? It can't happen. You can't understand America without that. How do you become, how do you fulfill the God-given talents that God created you with if we're not teaching you the basics in math, reading, history, and science? That's our mission. That's what we're here to do. And just to be clear, we are taking the fight to the teachers' unions with a strategy here to get our schools back on track across the country.
Excellent. Hey, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hey, can't speak highly enough about your work. You guys are one of the best organizations in the country. Huge fan of everything you guys are doing. Thank you for leading the fight and being the tip of the spear. Walker, can't tell you how much that I appreciate your work and the families across the country do.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Appreciate the kind words there. Appreciate you coming on. That's Ryan Walters, CEO of Teacher Freedom Alliance, former superintendent of education in the state of Oklahoma. And if anybody's taken some arrows, it's Ryan. He and I were visiting when he was here in town back several months ago, and he was talking about all the lawsuits against himself personally. These are civil suits launched against himself as an individual, not in his government capacity, but they were targeting him. They were targeting Ryan and his wife and his family with these frivolous civil lawsuits, and hundreds of thousands of dollars was having to be spent on litigation. So Ryan's been taking some arrows, and he's still fighting. And I think he's actually going to be more successful on this front than even as superintendent, although he did an excellent job. Shut down the teachers' unions. I hadn't thought about it, but I say we do it. I say we do it. Who has a case against why we should not shut down the teachers' unions? I'm listening. I'm listening for it. Not a good case. Not a good case. They've done so much bad, so much wrong, and they're an arm of the Democrat Party. So let's stop. At a minimum, stop the mandatory dues. At a minimum, stop the mandatory dues, be able to opt out. But best case scenario, we just eliminate them altogether. No more teachers' unions. We'll see you next time.